All right. So in the last class, we looked at classes. Today we will look at a few more non-primitive types like strings, arrays, and structs. So struct, it is very similar to what you know already in C#. I mentioned earlier the difference between structs and classes. Struct in C, you already know. In C, struct does not have functions inside it, whereas in C#, classes will have functions. But there is also struct in C#, and it so happens that this struct in C# will have functions inside it. So fundamentally, one can say there is not much difference between struct and class in C#. Both will have fields and functions inside. But there are some minor differences which you need not get into. And 99% of the times we will use classes in C#, not structs. But still, we'll just look at one example of struct, and that is quite basic. Usually, if your class or structure is very small, then you should use struct. If your class is slightly large, then you should use class. I mean, if your data type is quite large, then you should use class. If your data type is quite small, then you should use struct. Say, for instance, if you want to store RGB colors, right? So you can create a struct like and you can have variables like so values for each of them, red, green, blue. And you can actually give access modifier to all these. You can make public struct and then make each of these also public or private as you want. Okay, so something as simple as this. So when you have very small data types, so in this case you don't really have any methods or functions or something like that. It's just like rather than using 3 different variables as independent things, you're just grouping them into a collection. So that collection is struct. So usually for small data types we will use structs. For large data types we will use classes. Okay, we will understand better, say, when we look at some more examples. The next one is arrays. So in C#, you will declare arrays slightly differently. Concept of arrays is same. It is a collection of homogeneous data types. Okay, you need to have an array of same type, either array of integers or array of floats or whatever. It should be array of same types. Now, how do you declare an array? Suppose if I want to declare an array of 3 integers, normally in C, how do we do that? We say int array of 3 equal to whatever those values are, right? Either we give them here itself or we specify them later. Okay, this is in C. But in C#, the syntax is slightly different. In C#, rather than having the brackets here, you have the brackets here to say it is an integer array and then give the array name. Here you won't have brackets again. And you then say, now you need to allocate memory for this array, because an array is a type of class. Okay, and if you create a class, what do you do? If it is a class person, what do you say? new sorry, yeah, person P equal to new person. Similarly here, int array ARR equal to new int and size of the array. Okay, just a minute. So this is how you basically declare an array in C#, and then say if you want to initialize the values, say that will be very similar to C, like ARR of 0 equal to whatever, say 1, ARR of 1 equal to 2, ARR of 2 equal to 3. Okay, this is one way of initializing the array elements, element by element, and index starts from 0. Whether it is C or C#, whatever it is, index starts from 0. Okay, so this is in C#. Now suppose if you know all the elements during declaration itself, then you can initialize them in the same line. Right now we initialize them later. Suppose if I don't know this element, okay, so then this is a better way of suppose I don't know the second element, I know first element and last element, then I need to declare element by element. Okay, but suppose I know all the 3 elements beforehand, then rather than declaring each element separately, I can declare them in the first line itself. How? Int ARR equal to new int 3 and then curly braces 1, 2, 3, whatever the elements are. Okay, so this is equivalent to saying ARR of 0 is 1, ARR of 1 is 2, ARR of 2 is 3. Okay, so after that it is you deal with arrays like how you deal in C or any other language. Okay, all right. Now okay, so first let's look at some demo and then I'll move on to the next one. Okay, let me make a copy of it. So all these things that we are discussing are non-primitive types. Okay, classes, structures, arrays, strings, all these are non-primitive types. Okay, so okay, so let me change this name, so namespace arrays. All right, so let us say int a sorry, here we don't need brackets, equal to new int 3. One way of initializing elements of A is A of 0 equal to whatever, say 20, A of 1 equal to 15, a of 2 equal to minus 100, whatever it is. And now say if you want to print each of these elements, right now since we did not do loops, we have to print them one by one. Console.writeLine a of 0, and let me copy this, a of 1 and a of 2. Okay, so let us run this, but before that we need to change the folder. Okay, so now let's run. Yeah, it just printed the values. All right, so this is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is you declare the values, you initialize the values in the declaration step itself. What is the difference between declaration and initialization? Yeah. Or forget about arrays. Any variable when you declare, you can initialize. So what is the difference? Suppose if I say int x equal to 5. In this, what is declaration? What is initialization? Hmm?
X is into the declaration.
And equaling it to 5. That's all. So declaring a variable's name and its type is just declaration. Giving it a value is initialization. Okay? It can be primitive type or it can be non-primitive type. In the previous case, what did we do? Did we only declare or did we initialize also? In the sorry? In the first line, we just declared it. We didn't initialize it in the same line. Now, I am showing you how to both declare and also initialize in the same line. Okay? Got it? So in this case, we have not only declared the array name and its type and its size, we have also populated the array with values. So giving values to a variable is initialization. Just declaring the variable is declaration. Okay? So this is true for almost any data type you take. You can separate declaration and initialization, or you can combine them. It can be of primitive type or it can be of non-primitive type. Okay? So let's run this. This will also work. It will do the same thing. Okay? Yeah. Now another thing is, since if you remember in these data types program, where is it? Data types with var, yeah. So in this case, we replaced all the data types with var keyword. Okay, and it will automatically recognize what kind of a data type it is. Whether it is int or float or byte, whatever it is, it will recognize automatically depending on the value you are giving it. Similarly, it will work even for complex data types or non-primitive data types. Now even for arrays, instead of this int array data type, you can just say var. That will also work. Because on the right side you are saying this is an integer array of size 3. Okay? So So I'll just give var. Let's see if this will work. See, even this is working. Okay, so var can be used for any data type. It can be int or float, or it can be even for a class, or it can be even for an array, or whatever it is. You can just replace it with var and the system will recognize automatically. Okay, all right. So now let's look at strings. Yeah, string we have seen earlier. Like an example, we saw, say, string city equal to, say, Hyderabad. And strings are always placed in double quotes. All right. Now there are multiple ways of creating strings. Suppose if I want to concatenate two or more strings. Suppose if I want to say Hyderabad plus Telangana. Okay, so I can say first string state equal to Telangana. Now, one way of concatenating them is you can say string address equal to city plus, but I want to say put a comma in between. Then what do I do? Yeah, you add comma in double quotes and then add state. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. Another way of printing it is, or another way of concatenating it is, you can say string address equal to string dot format. There is a method called format for string class. Okay, I'll come to this class and struct thing. Even in data types, we have this class and struct category. String dot format. You remember in C, if we have to print the values of variables in printf statement, what do we do? Suppose I say I have int x equal to 5. Now I have to print x value using the variable x. How do I do that? Printf. Will it print if I say printf x? No. Quotes. Then? Yeah. Percentage %d and x. Now it will print the value of x, not the variable x. Okay. Similarly, here in string format, we don't have %d. We have what do we say, indices in the sense we say 0, comma 1. Okay, and now we write what goes in the place of 0, what goes in the place of 1. So what should I write here? City and then state. Okay, that's all. So instead of percentage %d or percentage whatever format specifiers you used to use in C, all you need to do is say 0, 1 and then 0, 1, 2, whatever it is, the variable names. It will take those values and print them. Okay, that is one thing. And another method is, suppose I have these names in an array of strings. I can have an array of strings. Each string is an element in the array, right? So I can have an array of, say, so how do I declare an array of strings? String brackets, yeah, array, say A equal to new string. Let's say I have only 2 elements, so the size will be 2, and these 2 elements are Hyderabad and Telangana. Okay, now I want to join them with a comma. Suppose I have my strings in an array, then rather than saying first element, comma, second element, comma, third element, all these things, suppose I want to join all of them with a comma. All of them will be separated with a comma and that will be combined into an entire string. Okay, so one way of doing it is string dot join your separator in double quotes and the array name, and you can assign this to a new string. So let me make space. You can assign this to a new string, say address. Okay, so these are all different ways of creating strings. All right, now one last thing. Sometimes you want some special characters in your string, in the sense, say, new line, right? Or you want to have backslash itself. So one way is you basically say say string suppose I want to give a directory's path. Okay, look up. Now directory's path, I want to give a list of 2 paths. Say first one is in Windows. Suppose in Windows, if I want to print something like this, directory path, folder 1, folder 2, do we have the backslash? Yeah, in the front also we will have the backslash. So folder 3, folder 4. Now I want to print this on my screen. If I write this directly, will it print? Here I have to write a new line, and I can continue writing like this. C, folder 3, and then folder 4. But even this will not work, because this backslash, it will not read it as backslash, it will read it as escape character. It will try to see if backslash f means something. That's how it will try to read. But I want backslash to be printed. Then what do I need to do? No. you need to put another backslash before this to say that print this backslash, treat this backslash as backslash, not as another special character. Okay, so here before each backslash you should put another backslash, but backslash n is anyway a new line, so you leave it as it is, and before this you put a backslash, again before this you put a backslash. Then it will print these folder paths in this way. Okay, but this is too cumbersome to type as well as read. All right, to make it simplified, all we need to do is string lookup equal to whatever you want to type it as it is. C folder 1 backslash folder 2, and then press the enter button, go to the next line and write all you need to do is put an @ symbol before this. Okay, if you put an @ symbol before this, it will print as it is, it will take the string as it is, as what you type. So it will not treat any of these as special characters, it will treat those characters as they are. Backslash means backslash, new line means new line, all those things. Okay, so that's just a way of formatting your text. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Let me close this and yeah. So first simple way is say string city is Hyderabad and string state is Telangana. Now if I want to join them, I say city plus comma in between plus Telangana, state. I can even add a space before and after, and I can print address. Okay, I need to change my directory. Why is it not running? Oh, I came back to arrays only, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so before I don't want to give a space, after that I want to give a space. Okay, so this is one way of joining. Another way of joining is string dot format 0 comma space 1, here city state. Okay, or let me say this is address 2 to distinguish it from the previous one. Okay, that is also working. Now let us store these in an array. So string array, array name is a new string size 2, here you say Hyderabad, no. Okay, now join them. So string address 3 equal to string dot join with a comma. You can also say comma space, and array name is A. Okay. Now let's print address 3. Okay. All right. And then the lookup example, say string lookup equal to, suppose if I want to say look up the below paths, then I have to specify a new line, and then I say C, and then backslash folder 1, again backslash folder 2, and then a new line, and then C backslash folder 3 double backslash folder 4. Okay, suppose if I give this, you see, this is what I want to be printed. But here when you look at this, it is quite difficult to read, right? So to make it easy, all you need to do is put an @ symbol and then type exactly what you want. Look up the below paths, next line C folder 1 folder 2, next line C folder 3 folder 4. Okay, that's it. What is the error? Expected line 30 semicolon. Yeah, that's all. Okay. Yeah, so here you have to basically delete this entire thing for you to get it exactly. Okay, that's all. All right, now do you notice these things like, okay, so when I say string dot format, what does this mean? I mean, how is this possible? String dot format means if you have to break down this structure, what is happening here? Sorry? Okay, I mean, I'm not asking about this function, but this dot thing, it is possible because something dot something is possible when A dot B is possible if A is what and B is what? B is in A, okay, and A is most probably what? Yeah, it's a class, right? And B is, it can be a function or it can be a field also. A dot B means, okay, in this case it is a function format. So string is a class. All right, so actually you can see when you why it shows sometimes and why it does not show sometimes. Suppose I go here. Yeah. So here you see what is it saying? Class system.string. So if you just hover your mouse over the data type, it is telling you more details. So this so-called string is a class. Okay. So this class will have different methods like dot format or dot join, right? These are all methods inside that class. Now, can you tell me whether these are static methods or not? What is a static method? What is the use of declaring something static? We discussed in the last class. Like when we say static void main, why are we saying static void main? Why not just void main? What is the use of making it static? That's why I asked you to do that last class homework. Otherwise, you will not understand the consequent lectures.
That method belongs to class itself.
Right, exactly. So that method belongs to the class itself. You need not create an object to access that method. Normally, all the fields and methods in a class, how do you access them? You first create an object and then that object will have the same fields and methods, same data and functions. Okay? But there are some methods which are not object specific. They are object independent, whether this object or that object or that object. This method will be same. Like in calculator class, I showed this add. This add is a static method. Okay? Why? Because whichever calculator instance you create, addition will be performed in the same manner. All of them will return a plus b only. It's not like one instance of calculator will do a minus b, some other instance of calculator will do a into b for addition function. No, all of them will do the same thing. So this addition is independent of the particular instance of calculator. It is a specific function of calculator itself. Okay? So you can associate it with the class itself, not this object or that object, not this instance or that instance. So when a method needs to be associated with the class itself, or another way is, if you want only one instance of that method, you don't want multiple instances of that method, just associate it with the class by using the keyword static. So here add is a static method. Okay? But if you take a person like this, suppose introduce, this is a method. Now, every person will not introduce in the same way, right? I am so and so, I am so many years old. Every person will not introduce in the same way, right? Each person's introduction will be different. So it cannot be static. It has to be associated with each object of the class, not the class itself. Because it is different for each object or each instance of the class. So you cannot make it static. If you don't make it static, a new copy of this method will be created with each copy of object. If you make it static, the new copy will not be created with each object. Only one copy will be there that will be associated with the class directly. Okay? That is the difference. Now, similarly, in strings, this formatting a string or joining a string, this is independent of this string or that string. Any strings will be joined in the same way. Any strings will be formatted in the same way. But can you give me an instance of a method of string which should be string specific? It is specific to this string or that string. It is not for the class itself. It varies with each string. Yeah, length of a string. That cannot be a static field or a static method. Each string's length will vary, so it has to be with the object, that is instance of a string, not the class itself. Okay, so then you need to first create an instance of string and then ask for its length. You cannot say string dot length because string is a class. Class, what length will it have? But you create some name, John, whatever it is, then you say, okay, John dot length or name dot length. Okay, so that is the difference. So static method and non-static method, there is a difference. If it is a static method, you access it directly from the class. If it is non-static, you access it through the object of that class. These are static methods. Format, join, these are directly accessible from the string method. Okay, and let's close this. And what about this? Other data types, you see, short, long, these are not classes, they are structures. Okay? Sorry. So one can think of them as like slightly small data types because they take only 8 bytes maximum. Sorry. Maximum 8 bytes, right, or 16 bytes, say for decimal type. But if you look at classes, they take much larger space, much larger memory. Okay, so all the primitive types are of the type structures. All the non-primitive types like arrays and strings, they are of type classes. So all the types that you see, primitive types and non-primitive types, they are either a class or a struct. So all the data types that you have, they can be classified into 2 categories. Classes, or let me write structs first. Structs and classes. So examples of structs are all primitive types. And any custom structs that you create, like we showed earlier, RGB, right? You can also create new structs. There are some inbuilt structures which are primitive types, and then you can also create new structures of your own. That is fine. Similarly, for classes, there are inbuilt classes like arrays, strings, and again any custom classes that you create. Okay, so all the primitive types you see, byte, cat, it is a struct. Similarly, byte, that is a struct. Int is a struct. Float is a struct. All these are structures. Okay, but if you look at string, that is a class. Similarly, if you look at array, that will also be a class. So we can see arrays. It's not showing. Okay, right now it's not showing. I'll see. But if you look at its details, that will also be a class. Okay, So arrays and strings, they are classes, whereas all primitive types, they are structures. So everything that you use, the highest category is these two types only. It will be either a class or a struct. Okay. Now, you know pointers anyway in C, right? Or references in Java. Okay. So reference is like a pointer. So basically reference means address. You are storing the address of something in somewhere else. So that is referring to that location. That is why it is called reference or a pointer. Fine. But the way pointers and references work, they are slightly different. But the fundamental concept is same. Rather than copying the value, you are copying its address. Okay. So whenever you copy structures, their values are copied. But when you copy classes, their addresses are copied. Okay. So what is the use of this? When you copy the address of something, the use is that if you copy the value and if you modify this copy, the original will not be modified, right? The entire value is copied. So suppose if I have a and b, if I copy a to b, int a and int b, let's say int a equal to 5 and then I copy a to b. Now if I increment b, say by 1, b will become 6. Will a also become 6? B is a copy of a. If I modify b, will a be modified? No, because it is creating a new memory for b and just copying that value from a to b. So you have two values, two copies of 5, out of which one copy is being modified. Okay. So if I say int a equal to 5, what is happening in the RAM? I have some location which is named a and it has a value 5. And then if I say int b equal to a, I have some other location for b, it copies this 5 here. So now I have 5 in two places. Alright. Now when I do b++, what will happen? Only this 5 will become 6. This 5 will not be affected. Right. So if you print a, it will print 5 only. If you print b, it will print 6. Okay. But suppose if I say array if I say array a equal to 1, 2, 3, I am not using the exact syntax, just to give you an idea. And then I say array b equal to a. Okay. Now I will say b of 1 equal to 4. So now b will be what? 1, 4, 3. And a will be? No. Now a will also be 1, 4, 3. Because when you copy a to b, it is not copying the entire array to b. It is only copying the address of the first element of a to b. So when you modify b of 1, it will go to this address. Whichever element is the second element in this address, it will modify that. Imagine array is of 1 million elements. You can't copy entire 1 million elements, right? 1 billion, 1 million, you can't copy them. So usually arrays and strings, those are entirely not copied. Only their addresses are copied, so that the new variable also points to that address, to the same copy. So whether you modify that, is there a class? So whether you modify that with the new value or the old value, the old value will be modified. With the new variable or the old variable, the original will be modified. Okay. So classes are always copied by reference, whereas structures are always copied by value. Okay. So these are some things to keep in mind. So let's stop here.